Tommy Rex, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now, here's your host.
The Sonic Temple Art and Music Festival returns May 14th through 17th with My Chemical Romance, Tool, Bring Me the Horizon, and Shinedown. Plus, Pierce the Veil, Good Charlotte, The Offspring, Sublime, Godsmack, Breaking Benjamin, Marilyn Manson, and so many more. Sonic Temple in Columbus, Ohio, May 14th to 17th. Passes on sale now for as low as $1 down at sonictemplefestival.com.
What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle, and I guess this would be like a take two if you go back in the archives. But either way, I always enjoy my conversations with my good friend Don Foose. How you doing, Don?
Great to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Always good talking with you, man. And you're always somebody that helps motivate me and help me when my head's like veering off track, man. And I appreciate the friendship we developed over the years, man.
Me too. Appreciate it.
But usually when I have people on for the first time, I like to kind of go way back. So do you remember when you were a little Foose, what you originally wanted to be when you grew up?
Mini Foose. I don't remember what I wanted to be, right? As a kid, wanted to be happy. Did you ever hear that?
Yeah, the
John Lennon. Yeah,
yeah,
funny.
Yeah.
I really just wanted to be happy. I just wanted to enjoy my life.
I think I recently just read that somewhere.
Yeah, it's in there.
Yeah. We'll definitely get into that. But growing up Foose, what was that like? I read something about like you had experience on a farm and everything.
Yeah, I grew up in a farm in Seville, Ohio, from the age of 5 till I was 6, first grade till like 7th grade. My father was an electrician, and he decided he wanted to be a farmer too. So we got this farm. Lived on this farm, and he'd go off and do union work, and I got stuck picking weeds all day and feeding cows and stuff. It was pretty cool though. It was good discipline as a kid,
Oh yeah, definitely good experience. Laid some foundations there for you. And then when was it that you kind of felt the calling to go serve your country, or was that decided for you?
I was laying in bed one day. No, I was laying on a couch. I was at my ex-girlfriend's house, and I saw, it was just around the time Rambo came out and everything.
Yeah.
And then, I saw this airborne commercial, people jumping out of airplanes. I'm like, whoa. I just went right to the recruiter and signed up. I didn't even tell her.
No.
Yeah, I went and signed up, and
oh shit.
And August 12th, I went into the infantry in Fort Benning, Georgia. Did my boot camp at Harmony Church in Fort Benning, Georgia. I did my AIT there, and then I went to airborne school right there at Fort Benning as well. And then I ended up going to permanent party in Fort Kobe, Panama. That's where light airborne infantry unit was. Light, yeah.
And then when, like coming from growing up in the farm in Seville,
yeah,
and then going into the Army, what was like that transition like for you?
Well, it wasn't from Seville. Seville, I went to North Royalton, I went to Brunswick. So growing up, I needed discipline. That's the one thing I got out of the military more than anything was, I needed discipline really bad. So going through boot camp and especially like airborne school, I got what I needed right away, put in my place.
And what would you say is like, some of the oddest things you experienced when you first went in.
The oddest?
Yeah.
Just back then we didn't have phones or anything, but it's like they take everything away from you basically, and your, boot camp. It's like separating the men from the boys. Some kids are crying and some people are like into it. I had just seen Rambo and I was like, yeah, man, I'm down.
I'm into it. Yeah.
It was cool, but I got in a lot of trouble when I was in the military, so my military life didn't last, as it should have.
Well, during the time you were in, what was probably your favorite place that you served at?
Just in Panama was really cool. It was new. It's like people speak Spanish there. It's like I wasn't ready for that. I didn't even know that whenever I got there. I was just young. I'm like, what the hell's this? But yeah, I liked it. I liked jumping out of airplanes. That was cool.
And then what was you mentioned discipline, needing the discipline. Like I wish, I needed it too when I went in, and I wish I kept it. It's funny because everybody makes fun of me. Man, you don't like listening to anybody. How'd you make it 20 years in the military? I'm like, yeah. I don't know. They liked to party with me back in the day, But yeah. What was something that you feel like you'll always carry with you from your time of service?
Just learning to wake up early and get the day going. And, you always see these, in the military, you get more done by 9 o'clock than most people do in a whole day. And it's like, it's real, like I got into spiritual life much later in life, and that foundation of waking up early, getting stuff done, putting, the priorities first in life, that was taught to me at a young age. And that was, one of the debts, I owe to the military, was giving me that strong foundation.
And do you have is there, looking back on that time, is there like a funny story that sticks out?
You know what? I probably couldn't share those, but there was one time we didn't have cab money when we were out drinking all night back when I was, a recluse, but the guy, our cab driver, we decided we're just going to make a run for it. And we were running. This guy got out of his cab swinging a big machete chasing us, and he looked like Mr. Magoo, and he was just a real odd looking dude, and we were laughing so hard, but we got away. Yeah, that's my karma. I still owe that guy money. I feel bad.
Yeah, Mr. Magoo, you got to pay him back.
Yeah.
And then what would you say is like one of your greatest hopes for the country that you had been willing to give your life for?
One of the greatest hopes? What do you mean by that exactly?
Like, what do you hope for? Looking at,
it'll never happen. I when the beauty pageant girls are like, I want world peace. I really would love world peace. I would love people to come together. I wish red and blue would ditch the colors and just come together. Why don't we just be one happy nation, loving each other, and ditch all the politics, ditch complaining all the time about stuff, work together, used to be one nation under God. Now it's just like one party against another party. And then you have all these micro parties, it's like, just come together. There's one God. We're all God's children, and we need to come together and love each other. It's the bottom line. That's Amen. What I'd like to see.
Yeah. You and me both. I know, even like in the spiritual world we'll get into, like, I know I was raised Catholic, but, and I'd still consider myself a Christian, but even they splintered. There's so many splinter groups in that. There's just, everything's got to, I don't know, man takes what God gave us and we seem to screw it up quite a bit.
We do. Yeah.
What do you feel is something we could do to break the stigma of mental health or PTSD, though?
Be God conscious. I think if you have God in the center of your heart, you can like really surrender the depression. And, and I'm not saying like people that are like bipolar or whatever, that they shouldn't do medication or whatever, and they should just surrender to God or whatever. You know, I'm not some holy roller beating people over the head with the scripture or whatever. I'm just saying, really surrender everything. You know, even if you're depressed, just give it to God. You know, and you know, it's life is very, very difficult to live. You know, so anybody that has any like PTSD or whatever stuff, you know, it's like meditation, yoga, doing devotional service, doing things in your community that can give back. I mean, it goes a long way, and it builds your character, and it builds self-esteem, and you know, what you throw out in the universe comes back tenfold. So just do it, you know?
Yeah. I know the longer, I mean, I've always been a slow learner, like, as you know me
too.
from back in the day
Yeah.
too. But the more I actually start practicing in my recovery journey, you know, with my sponsor, and, you know, it's all about acts of service. It's getting out of self, you know, it's all about kind of like humility and getting rid of the ego. And you know, the more I do that, the better, you know I feel, you know.
Oh yeah.
And so after your time in the military, you come home, and when was it that, like, I mean, even before going into the military, obviously you've been a fan of music.
Oh yeah.
Like, what were some of like the earliest influences?
Well, my mother was always playing records. She had a huge record collection, you know, the Fleetwood Macs, the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, just all that stuff, old school, Bob Dylan, Jim Croce, all the classics, Jimi Hendrix. So it was like wartime music and all that. I love that stuff, you know, so that's what I was growing up with. And then, you know, along the way, you know, when you're in grade school, you hear about punk rock and heavy metal, and you're like, this is cool.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's
for that angsty teenager, or that little bit of whatever,
ass kicking music, you know.
Yeah, you need to get work out of your system. You know? And then, you know, I know the story's been told many times, but I guess you'll have to tell it again right here. But when you first got into like singing, you know, and then you first got into, you know, playing with a band, tell that a little bit about that story.
Oh, well, I was in high school. I went to a party with my buddy Dave Nemeth, and I can't remember who else was there, but we went to this party, and there was a band playing in the driveway, and the guy said, "Hey man, our singer didn't make it out tonight, but we're just playing some tunes. You know, if you know any of the lyrics, come on up and help us out." He was just saying it in general, you know, almost like open mic night. Yeah. And they started playing a Metallica song, and that was like right when Kill 'Em All it was maybe a year after Kill 'Em All, because I was like really into like Metallica at the time. And they started playing the Four Horsemen. I jumped up there and I just grabbed the mic and started jumping around, going crazy and singing. I had a few soda pops in me, so that helped.
Yeah.
But, you know, when I was doing it, I was jumping around and stuff, and people started coming closer to us, and they're singing and fist pumping and stuff, and it was really cool. And then we finished the song, and they're like, "Oh, that was cool, man. Hey, thanks for coming up." And I was walking away to the keg, you know, because it was a keg party. Yeah. And some dude in tight jean shorts, and he had a wooden leg, and he came limping up to me, and he's like, "Bro, man, what band you in?" And I said, "I'm not in a band." I said, "That's the first time I've ever been sang into a microphone or anything, you know." And he said, "Dude, you need to be in a band." So I got really inspired by that, you know, and that was kind of like where one of the times where I said, "Yeah, I'd like to do this, you know, for real, you know, in a band." So it was some time later, though, I ended up, you know, getting into bands.
So like after that party, that experience, just regular school stuff, what were you doing, sports and all that too, or?
Yeah, you know, I was always into baseball, basketball, and football, and then a little later I got into boxing. I started boxing like religiously. I'd go to the gym just about every day and spar with whoever would let me spar with them, and had some fights. I got some fights, and that was cool. That was it goes back to the discipline too. I like sports where you don't have to share the ball.
Yeah.
I like being in charge of whether I win or lose. So it was pretty cool. But yeah.
And then still like kind of going to parties, and then did you start like did you discover some of the local venues and start attending more live shows?
Yeah, I'd go to the clubs, I'd go to the variety theater, go to just all the hot spots back in the day. Diversions was down on Brook Park. I don't know if you remember that one. Shadows.
I remember Shadows.
Yeah. And then just old Peabodys and stuff. And I just started going to shows. I kind of fell in love with the music scene,
Yeah.
I wanted to be a part of it, but I didn't know how I'd fit in.
Yeah. I know. And we talked a little bit about our time at the Richfield Coliseum, some of the shows we got to see there.
Yeah.
But when you started, like you said, you didn't know how to be a part of it. When was, how did that opportunity then present itself to you?
I started jamming with bands, and just a couple small time things, just jamming together, cover tunes. And my buddy Jimmy Mailer in high school, we had something, we called it roulette, and we'd play old just metal tunes and stuff, and it was cool. And then some time went by, got together with Scott Dolan, we did the Bagman. That was ended up becoming Face Value. And we even put out a little EP. Just before that, though, I auditioned for the Spudmonsters. I saw an ad in the paper. It said, Spudmonsters seek aggressive vocalist. So I answered the ad, had an audition, seemed like it went pretty well. And I think I even had a second audition. And then they're like, oh, it's down to you and some guy named Stiffo. So I didn't hear from them for a while. So that's
Stiffo got it, right?
I figured Stiffo got it, and that's whenever I got with Scott Dolan, start doing the Bagman and doing that. We did the recording pretty quickly, and then one night I was at a Judge, Chain of Strength, Bold, and Gorilla Biscuit show at the Fantasy nightclub, and Chris Andrews from the Spudmonsters came up to me and he said, "Hey man, you still interested in singing for the Spuds?" And I said, "Oh hell yeah!" And he shook my hand. He said, "Welcome aboard. We got a lot to do."
Nice.
Yeah. So
Nice.
we started like practicing like all the time. It was like 6 days, sometimes 7 days a week. That was just where we went every day and jammed, and we'd go through our whole set. And when we get to the end, we go and start the set again. And back then they had like 25 songs, It was just a lot of music. And then we ended up writing 4 albums altogether anyway. So, I mean, that band had a lot of music. But, it was a real strict, militant type of, no talking in between songs. We do like 4 songs straight, and then everyone's tuned up real quick, and then it's on to the next stanza,
Bringing that discipline back in,
Yeah.
The band to do well, you had to.
I love that about it too. I wanted to do that. And then we started playing a lot of shows, and then we started playing a little bit out of town, going to Erie, PA, going to like Chicago, going to New York, going to, Detroit. We just started bouncing around everywhere, created a pretty good buzz about ourselves, And then in Cleveland, we started drawing like 1,000 people every time we play out, sometimes even 1,500. That's when we really started to grow a lot. And then they had the Undercurrents. Remember that?
Yeah.
Where record labels would all come out, and then they'd do a bunch of seminars and stuff, and they'd come out to a bunch of different clubs and see the bands that they were showcasing, that they were looking into signing. And that was really cool. And then Neil Schroeder from Metal Blade Records was supposed to come out and see us when we played at the Empire. It was one of the biggest shows we've ever done. It was called the Circus from Hell show, where a bunch of our roadies, they went out and just got all these like stuffed animals and were hanging them from the ceiling, and in the in the Empire, and yeah, it was just crazy. And they had the Spud paper on the front of the stage and balloons just blown up everywhere. It was just all crazy. And they had me jumping out of a Jack in the Box,
Nice.
with a mask on. That's kind of where Mushroom Head got their thing. It was we would wear masks every once in a while and play shows, and it was always a different show. Every show had a theme, so people were like, oh, we got to go see what the Spuds are doing.
Nice.
So so this was the circus from hell, and we had Underwear Man. It was Joe Kilcoyne's brother. He would dress up in black dress socks, dress shoes, and wear tighty whities, like Fruit of the Looms, and he'd come out there with underwear over his head, and he'd come out and crank the Jack in the Box, and as they're playing some music, and then on a certain note, I pop out the top and I'm squirting silly string in the crowd, and it was just, one of our many themed shows. And that show, people are still to this day talking about it. And it was pretty crazy, but the guy from Metal Blade didn't show up. He missed his flight. So he had to come to our practice spot to check us out the next day. Of course, he didn't get the live Spuds,
And there back then,
interaction.
was there people recording that stuff? Is there like
there's a recording, there's a video. I'm sure Steve has it. Steve's got a lot. Chris might have it, but I think I actually have it, but I have it on VHS. I don't know how to
you put it on
YouTube
and stuff.
But
I know,
man,
dude. I got boxes of stuff. I wish I knew how to transfer.
It's an absolute, it's pandemonium from the first note to the last. It was so crazy, that show. But, we kept playing and doing more and more gigs in and out of town. And then
that guy was going to try and sign you, right? And then
so what he did was he got us on the next Metal Blade compilation album, Metal Massacre 11, which is famous for like Exodus, Voivod, Metallica, Slayer. They were compilation albums that everybody would collect.
Mm-hmm.
By the time we got on, it was Metal Massacre 11, wasn't as much of a collectible, but it was cool. It was a real honor to be on it.
Yeah.
So anyway, he ends up getting fired from the label, and Brian Schlegel, the president of Metal Blade, didn't want to sign us, I guess. He was more into the metal aspect of the bands, and we were already kind of going a separate direction, So Joe Kilcoyne from the Spuds, he had joined that band Mystic, and they had gone to Europe, and they recorded an album with Massacre Records, and he gave them our demo.
Nice.
And they wanted to sign us, so we signed a 3-album deal. And then they were like, they wanted us to go over and tour in Europe with a band called Mucky Pup. They were a really good band, but a couple of weeks before we were supposed to fly over, the tour got canceled, so we were all like bummed out, And we ended up getting an offer to tour for a few weeks with Biohazard, and that was when they were on the Urban Discipline tour. It was like their biggest album, and they were playing in front of like 2,000 plus people every single night in Europe. So we show up in Europe and it's like game on, And it was absolutely insane. Yeah.
Yeah, so that other tour getting canceled was a blessing in disguise.
Oh,
it
was
opened up
definitely
the door for you guys.
Because we're playing in front of sold out crowds, and Evan, one singer of Biohazard, said, "Hey man, when you guys go out here for your first show, don't worry about the crowd. They probably won't dance for you. They'll just stand there and watch you because they're very observant."
Yeah.
And then he goes, just do your thing, man. He goes, they'll love you. Don't worry about it. So I told the guys in the band, let's go tear it up, man. Let's go nuts. Let's go Cleveland style on this crowd. So we were at an airport hangar in Germany, somewhere in Germany. I usually know. Oh, Munich, Germany. So I go out, and Clutch was on this tour with us too.
Oh yeah.
Clutch was, it was like,
wow.
Nobody even knew who Clutch was, and just standing there watching them. But when we went out there, I took it as a challenge. I wanted to get the crowd fired up right away, and I just went on like, "Are you motherfuckers ready? What? Let's go!" And I just ran and did like a triple Indy into the crowd or whatever. I just did a crazy flip into the crowd, and from that first note, they went nuts for us. It was awesome. So I tell the story a lot too, but it's a good story, man. We're coming off the stage after we're done, the crowd's cheering for us, and I'm going off the side of the stage, and then it goes into this big hallway. And I see all these people kind of pushing their way forward, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on, man? You know, like, is there a fight? And Evan from Biohazard came up and he goes, yo, bro, they're fighting for your merch. They're going to your merch to buy your stuff. And I'm like, get out of here. And it was true, man.
Nice.
So that first show, you know, after we're done, you know, we're signing autographs and signing people's tickets and signing albums. And our label gave us this bunch of garbage bags of these Spudmonsters frisbees to throw out in the crowd every day, you know, like when we're on stage. And what a brilliant marketing tool. And they made Spudmonsters potato chips, Spudmonsters beer.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So there's all this promotional stuff going on. People are having us sign everything. It was all new to us because we're like, we're just a bunch of idiots from Cleveland having fun. We're not supposed to be here, you know, but they liked us and it was cool.
And what was, you know, when you guys were taking off here locally, what was the Cleveland scene like?
Cleveland scene was great. It was always really good. You know, Integrity had just broken out. They had gone to Europe. Face Value was getting going, you know. My favorite band at that time was False Hope. They were amazing, man. That was Chris Smith and all those guys, man. I love that band. Dave Araka was a great drummer, man. Dave Evie singing, man. I love that band, man. They were awesome, but they never got signed and they just never took off. But man, the music scene back then, I loved Outface at that time too. A lot of great bands, you know. The scene, anytime you go to a show on a Saturday night or a Friday night, you know, it's usually a packed house.
And
you know,
familiar faces. So
familiar faces.
You know,
Everybody's
community
hanging
back
out.
then and everything.
Yeah.
And then, you know, as you know, we were talking a little bit about before you got into like spirituality and got healthy and like, you know, the party lifestyle and stuff. But when did that change for you?
We went on tour with the Cro-Mags in 1995. I met the singer, John Joseph. The first show we played with them in Dayton, Ohio. I'm backstage getting ready to go on. I used to always hit the focus mitts because I was into boxing, and that would get my heart rate up so I could go out there and sing and not die gasping for air. So I'm back there sparring around, hitting focus mitts, and then I see John Joseph over there talking to some kid, and he was just like talking to this kid about his spiritual life, you know, and he was saying he's talking about reincarnation, karma, meditation, vegetarianism and stuff. And I was like, wow, what is this dude talking about? That was all new to me. And I was like, it was cool. And the kid must have been gay or something, because he was asking him, what does your religion say about homosexuality? Because that's really important to me. He said that. And I'll never forget what John said. You know, he said, our religious philosophy is about surrendering to God. It has nothing to do with sex. And he said sex is meant, you know, for procreation, not recreation, whether it's homosexual or heterosexual, you know. And I thought, wow, that's like really, really deep. So anyway, we played the show, and I asked him later on that night, I'm like, what's all that stuff you were talking to that kid about, reincarnation and stuff and vegetarianism? Like, why? And you know, and here he is, covered head to toe in tattoos, but the nicest guy in the world, just had all the time in the world to talk philosophy. And he's just a good dude all around, man. And he said, you know, he had a real thick New York accent. Yeah. He gives me a little book on Krishna consciousness. You know, he's like, yo, enlighten yourself. So I did. I was reading the book. I was like, man, this is great. Learning that animals have feelings, you know, and you know, for us to take their life just for 10 or 15 minutes of pleasure by eating them, you know, that's not right, you know. And to this day, you know, I eat a plant-based diet strictly, you know. I haven't had meat, fish, or eggs in over 30 years, you know. And it's like, you know, when you learn a little bit about philosophy, you learn about life, you know. You learn more than eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. You're understanding that people have feelings and emotions. Animals have feelings and emotions, and you know, and after learning so much about the philosophy, I couldn't deny it anymore. So almost instantly on that tour, I just stopped eating meat and stopped taking intoxication. You know, I haven't had a beer, or unless it's non-alcoholic, but like I haven't had anything in over 30 years, you know, and it's like you can't live to your fullest potential if your mind's not clear. You know, I've always believed in that, you know. So, you know, I was boxing at the time and also playing music with the band, and then philosophically my mind is changing, you know, whole different direction, you know. So it was a great, best time of my life though.
Yeah. What was originally like, all right, you started reading the book John gave you.
Yeah.
You're enlightening yourself, and then you
No, I'm enlightening myself.
enlightening yourself.
Yeah.
What was I mean, how were you like eating before that, and then what was that transition like for you, especially doing it on the road?
Yeah, I was into eating chicken wings back then and drinking Sam Adams and Budweiser and, you know, like whatever, you know, it was like your typical meathead, you know. I was like but then, you know, I'm learning about animals, and, you know, you see animals that have flat teeth, like say cows, horses, rabbits, flat teeth. Ironically enough, they eat vegetation only, you know, they're herbivores. So, you know, horses, you know, they're eating apples and grass, and cows and all that. So then you look at animals that have fangs, they're carnivores. So we have flat teeth. Now we have a sad excuse for fangs, these, you know, but they're not really meant for tearing flesh. So, I mean, scientifically, you could look at the anatomy of the human and say it's meant for, you know, a vegetation, a plant-based diet, you know, and I couldn't deny that. So I gave it up right away. And I never even was tempted to eat that stuff again. And back whenever I went vegetarian, there weren't these, you know, Beyond Burgers or anything. You had a choice of like hummus or falafel or, you know, tofu, and none of us knew how to cook tofu. You know, you got to spice it right and everything, or it's going to taste like cardboard.
But yeah, you're on the road doing this.
I'm on the road with John Joseph, and he's like, we can go to this restaurant, we get a bean burrito.
All right. Well, thank God he was there for
Yeah,
you. Like,
yeah.
I don't know how you'd have figured it out on your own. Like, you know, just go grab some celery sticks or something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people think being a vegetarian is,
Yeah,
like eating like a rabbit. And
Yeah,
it's like,
how you gonna do this? You know, I mean, but not knowing any different without, you know, having John Joseph there. How would have that?
yeah.
It would have been. I don't know, man.
Yeah, it was pretty cool though, you know, and having him guide me through that stuff. He's guiding me through spiritual life and guiding me through a new direction with my health, and turned me on to ginseng. And here I am chewing on roots and eating, you know, a plant-based diet. It was different, but I was really into it. And he got me into juicing too. I never knew that you could like masticate juice and drink it. You know, it's like juice to me was orange juice in the store, but, you know, it was all processed and loaded with sugar and everything, you know. But he's buying these like green juices, you know, it tastes like fresh carrots and peppers and, you know, kale and celery and oranges and all this stuff. And then, you know, you drink that and you get this blast of energy and you're like ready to go, you know. And I was like, man, I can't go back to that old lifestyle anymore.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Like, when did you start feeling like the difference in your, you know, body as well?
Oh, it was almost instantly, you know. I drank my last beer with Kirk from Crowbar at Peabody's Down Under, and I went up and sang Aqualung with him. And yeah, I remember it was a Miller Lite. What a gross beer anyway, you know, but he had it and we were hanging backstage because we had played with Crowbar before. Great band, man. He's in Down and Crowbar and a bunch of other bands too. But anyway, yeah, that was the night where I was like, yeah, I need to ditch this too. Because first it was ditch the meat, all that stuff, you know, and then I wanted to be clean inside and out, you know.
Yeah, like, I mean, the addict in me would have been like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, like, you know, vegetable thing. I would justify like beer, like hops and barley or whatever,
Yeah.
in my head,
So your mind could be your biggest enemy. It says that in the Bhagavad Gita. It could be your biggest enemy, but it could also be your best friend. If you control it, control the mind. It's your best friend. But if you let your mind dictate to you, you let your senses drag you here and there, then it's your worst enemy, man. And it's so difficult to make goals and attain them whenever you have no control over your own mind. So like right now I'm doing a water fast and a few days in, and it's like, it's intense. And your mind's telling you, oh man, I could just break this fast right now and eat something, but the benefit wouldn't be there fully. So it's like you have to keep your eye on the prize in anything you do in life. Know why you're doing it and then coach yourself through it. That's why I coach people in juice fasting and raw foods and stuff like that. I try to coach people just in life too, because like you and I, man, we've been through a lot of stuff in our lives.
Yeah.
I've heard your story, and it's like when you've been through a lot and you've been through a lot of the tests yourself, you try to talk to the youth of today and say, hey, listen, man, watch out for this. Like my son, I want to tell him all the time, beware of this. I'm telling you right now, put some money aside for this situation. Don't do that and do this,
Yeah.
So life is full of do's and do nots. And like, I didn't really have that role model growing up teaching me those things. My father was always at work, or he had to go to New York and work for a while too, so I was home raised in hell, getting thrown in DHs and stuff, wasn't the best.
Now I remember like when we first started, like, when our friendship first started, like back when I was still like, dollar bill, and I still didn't want to, give up. And I still, I struggle with, the giving up of some things and the sacrifice and the discipline, like I was saying. But I do remember like the few times like you had me over your home, you'd welcome me in, you'd feed me, I'd sit down, we'd burn incense and trying to teach me to meditate. You're trying to,
Yeah.
And I won't, and I always remember that,
Yeah.
And as time went on, I still went and did dollar bill stuff, but I would always come back and you would never judge. You would never like, you loved me for where I was at, and I've always appreciated that. But as your journey has continued, like you said, after learning kind of enlightening yourself along the way.
Yeah.
Let's talk about like the certifications or whatever, the studying you did. So that way you could become like a personal trainer, but also like the juice, like you wrote the book right here, right there.
Yeah.
One out here.
Oh yeah. That's
see,
in 2014, that was my first book, Raw Life. I was inspired by John Joseph and also by my friend Kay Stubbs. He's a devotee of Krishna also. He was telling me, because I used to coach people in juice fasting all the time.
Yeah.
And he would always, I would, after someone's coming off a fast, I would always write down a diet for them to do. And I would always have to write it down and stuff. It's like I didn't have anything. And my buddy Kay Stubbs was like, man, just take all your knowledge and compile it and put it in a book. So that way, when somebody does a juice fast, that's part of the program. They read your book after, and it's a how to live after the juice fast and during the juice fast. It's all on juice fasting, making elixirs to fight ailments of the mind and the body, raw vegan foods, and superfoods. So anyway, the book is it's a staple in my life.
Well, you mentioned fight ailments of the mind.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more about that.
Like say chocolate, for instance. Chocolate's very calming, it's magnesium. Okay. So whenever you're doing a juice fast, your mind is very calm. Like my mind is like really just chill right now because I'm just on water, so it makes everything really crystal clear. You have good mental clarity. You're not being bogged down with digestion, So like a lot of things, like if you see, like, look at that, the ginseng on the front of this, it's got two legs at the bottom. It's got a head on it. It's got little arms coming off it. Usually you can look at your herbs or your fruits and your vegetables or your nuts and see what they're good for. The body of a ginseng looks like a human body. Ironically enough, in Chinese medicine, it's good for nourishing the entire body. It's the top botanical in all of Chinese medicine. So then, carrots, you slice a carrot and you hold it up to the sun and you see it looks like an eyeball. It's got like a center and everything. Mm-hmm. It's because it's got terpenes, sesquiterpenes, or what do you call them? Brain farting right now. But anyway,
beta carotene.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
types
because
of.
I just read that.
Yeah, right.
In there too.
So
you mentioned that the walnut with the brain.
Yeah, the walnut looks like a brain. It's good. It's good for omega-3 fatty acid, which is good for nourishing the brain.
Yeah.
So and ribs of celery are great for the bones, and it looks just like a bone. So it's God. It was no mistake. God knew what He was doing. So you look at things. Beets are blood red, and they're amazing for cleansing the blood and flushing the liver. So, I don't know where I was rambling from in that,
but just like along the way, like you would study, you were teaching, or like to become like a juice coach. Like what did that entail?
Well, I studied Ron Teagard, I studied Truth Calkins, David Wolf, Daniel Vitalis, some of these guys that are just top of the line pioneers in teaching raw food and juicing and juice fasting. And so I learned a lot from there. I went to a lot of seminars, read a lot of books. And back in 98, we'll backtrack. That's whenever I got certified as a personal trainer. I wanted to do that because I wanted to train people how to box, because I was boxing at the time, but I was kind of like wanting to help people out too. And to be in somebody's corner, I wanted to make sure I had a certification.
Yeah.
So I got that certification, wrote the book, Raw Life. And then I ended up writing this book, as you've shown, Motivate Me. And I was just taking great motivational quotes that inspired me in my life. And I showed how it correlated in my life. And I still have another book in my mind every time. I'm like, oh, I should have put that in the book. So it's like, I'm working on 2 other books right now, but I'll get to those whenever.
Yeah.
Well, a lot going on.
Going back to music, after the Spuds, after your time with the Spudmonsters ended, what was Run Devil Run the next?
Yeah, Spudmonsters we decided at the end of a European tour in 1997 that we were going to just hang it up for a while, maybe hang it up for good. We were in Europe. It was like we were getting ripped off by promoters. We had a band on tour with us that had to be kicked off the tour because they broke into a snowboarding shop and brought stolen stuff onto the tour bus and stuff. So, and then they weren't on the bill anymore. And it's not like they were a huge draw or anything. We were still selling places out. And then the promoters were like, oh, if they're not on the bill, we're not giving you your full guarantees and stuff. And we were just by that time, we were just like,
kind of getting jaded.
Kind of just
music.
Kind of like, let's just call it a day for a while, So Scott ended up going to New York, and he was in the Cro-Mags for a while. It was John Joseph's version of the Cro-Mags at the time. And then him and Eric went and auditioned before that. They went to San Francisco and auditioned for Machine Head. And I guess Machine Head really liked both of them a lot, but then there were a couple local guys that rose up. That Logan guy ended up, I think he's still with the band, but they took him, and then whatever the drummer was. So Scott went to the Cro-Mags. Eric, our guitar player and drummer, they went to Propane. They started playing full-time with Propane. So everybody's in these bands doing their thing. And then I formed Run Devil Run with Mike Ski from Brothers Keeper, my buddy Krishna Charan from Detroit. And then Richie Furjanic was a drummer for Everything Cold Blood. And It was cool. You know, we got together on 3 weekends in a row, and wrote like, I think it was 4 songs each time. And we wrote the whole album, the first album, The Killing Civilization, in just like 3 sessions. It was wild. So then I wrote all the lyrics, and then we recorded right away. And then there was a guy, Cro-Mags from Belgium. He's a big, he used to write for Aardschok magazine. He was a pretty big name in the music industry. And he knew this guy, Lawrence Custers from Belgium, from Ice Cream Records. He said, I'm going to tell him he has to sign you guys, your new band. He goes, I don't care what it sounds like. He'll sign you. I was like, all right. So we started out being called Raja Vidya, which means the king of knowledge. Nobody could pronounce it right and everything.
Yeah.
We're like, let's just simplify it. Mike Ski came up with Run Devil Run. It was those old candles, the Run Devil Run candles for, you know, for to get rid of evil spirits or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, we ended up putting it all together, and I talked to Lawrence. He said, yeah, let's put the album out. So Eric Klinger, our guitarist from the Spuds, he had just come into some money from a life insurance policy. I think his father left for him, and he bought some recording studio stuff, and we recorded the whole first Run Devil Run album in our old Spuds practice space. And sent it right away over to Europe, and he goes, great, let's shoot some videos. So we shot 3 music videos for what were I don't even remember the songs. Breaking Free, Reform, and then The Killing Civilization. And then so we ended up we're doing all this stuff like right away. It's like all of a sudden we have this album, we got a few videos, and then Eric got in Propane, and we got on the Propane European tour like right away. So we went over and did like 40 shows in Europe with that. And we came home for a little while, and then we went back over and played the Dynamo Open Air Festival, and Metallica headlining, and SOD, and Manowar played, and there were like all these over there. The festival is just like,
oh yeah, insane.
You got totally different bands, you know, like Bjork would be playing, and then, you know, Danzig, and, you know, so we got to play that. That was pretty awesome. And then we did some more touring, you know. He kept flying us over there, you know, and then when it came time to do the second album, that came out on Victory Records in America, but that was still Ice Cream Records in Europe. But yeah, there was a lot, you know, a lot of stuff right out of the gate. You know, we just got thrown right into the lion's den on that one.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, obviously, if you didn't leave a good impression out there, people wouldn't have been willing to help you. And I think, do you think your life, you know, changes like help play a role in that when you started enlightening yourself?
Yeah,
too?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I've always been a friendly person. I've always, like on the first European tour, people would come up and they would always ask you for your snail mail. They wanted pen pals. Back then, there wasn't email or anything. They wanted to write you, and they wanted to know what was going on with your life. And I embraced that. Like, I was all about that. So like after a while, I was getting mail like all the time, you know, and I would, right when I'd get it, I'd write them back right away, and I'd, you know, send it right out. And I was spending so much money on like shipping. It was like, that was like where all my extra money was going. It was like just shipping, you know, like, or sending letters. Back then it was easier to send letters to Europe. Now it's like, it's a little pricey, but it was cool, you know, like I'm getting to know people and stuff. So I made a lot of friends. So like whenever I did start Run Devil Run, if we were on tour, I had friends in every city, you know, in every country, and we always had a couch to sleep on if we wanted, or whatever. We got hotels by then, but you know, having friends everywhere throughout the world is like the most amazing feeling, you know?
Yeah. And as, I mean, I guess to bring it more current, I mean, you've had, you know, several projects since Run Devil Run as well that you worked on, but I guess I mean, one life all in.
Yeah.
Is still your most current.
Yeah, I used to call it a project, but it ended up being my main band, and it's with my friends from the band Seekers of the Truth, and they live in Lyon, France.
And that was friendships that you made, like we were talking about.
They were Spudmonsters fans. They'd come to the shows, and we just, made friends with them, and that's what I was talking about, getting to know people. And that's why they came to me and like, hey, you want to sing on one song off the Seekers of the Truth album? I said, oh, I'd be honored to. And then that album came out, and then they're like, would you want to do a project? And at that time I was a little bit burned out with like hardcore and stuff. I'm like, everything sounds the same. I'm like, send me something, but make it original or make it like interesting, not just Cookie Monster songs, and playing drums on your guitar. I didn't want to do any of that crap anymore. So they sent me the stuff that ended up being our first EP, the A7 session, and I loved the music. It had so much character. It was rock and roll with metal and hardcore mixed into it. And it was like, this is a breath of fresh air. I got to use my voice more than I did in the Spuds, where I was more barking the whole time. I got to sing, I got to yell, I got to do a little bit of everything. And I love One Life All In. But even before One Life All In, I did a project called Lifeline.
Yeah.
With Robert Ehrenbrand from Voice Sets Fire. That was a German project I did. We did one European tour, but that was fun. Robert and I wrote all those songs together, and that was a blast. And that was kind of more of a H2O meets Pennywise meets the Misfits type of songs, I love that. I love that project. And anyway, that was just another.
So that was another connection you made. Another connection. The Spuds touring and being a pen pal, being willing to write people back.
Robert used to go to our shows in Germany back in the day, and he came to a show when I was on tour doing the Foose tour, my solo project. He came to the show. He's like, man, I used to go see the Spuds. You guys were crazy, man.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to come see you, man. And I was like, and he's like, I'm from a band called Voice Sets Fire. I'm like, dude, you guys are on Victory Records, man. I mean, you guys were huge, man. I used to love Voice Sets Fire. He's like, we should do a project. I'm like, let's do it. So back then also, we had email back then. So he would email me riffs just on an acoustic guitar. And then I had a little microphone at home and a little, what do you call it? I don't even know terminology when it comes to recording equipment, but anyway, I had the ability to record my vocals to his, his acoustic riffs. And then, they ended up recording in Germany. And then I got good enough on, what was it? It wasn't, I can't remember what I recorded on. Was it, I was on Pro Tools. That's what it was. Pro Tools 7 at the time. So Bill Korecki, God bless him, may rest in peace. He came to my house, showed me how to run Pro Tools and record my own vocals for the album. And then we gave him the recording to mix. And then when it was done, it really sounded really good, man. And we're like, hey, let's just do a short European tour and just have fun. So we did that. And I wish we had done more with it because it was a lot of fun.
What was the inspiration picking the name Lifeline? Would you say?
I don't really even remember how I got it. I know I picked the name Lifeline because actually Robert wanted to call it whatever the German words for boys and girls. It was going to be boys and girls.
Frauleins and
no. I can't remember what it was called. But I was like, I don't know, man. Let's simplify it. And then I just came up with Lifeline. Because it's weird, not realizing I use the word life a lot. There's Lifeline, Raw Life, my book, Lifeline, One Life All In.
Yeah.
Even whenever I was in like this band, whenever I first started singing, before I knew about the punk band Life Sentence, we were called Life Sentence. So it's just weird how life has made its way into all my projects.
Living life.
Living life.
And then I mean, I know one thing that I've always admired is your energy, you know, on stage. I mean, I know there was that one determination video that you had out there where you talk about the David Lee Roth story.
Yeah.
Obviously you're a fan,
Yeah.
kind of some inspired by him, because there's those old David Lee Roth jumps and stuff that he's famous for in Van Halen. Was that kind of one of your inspirations for doing your jumps, or just?
No, I was kind of inspired by Blaine, the singer for The Accused, how he was just crazy on stage, and HR from the Bad Brains. Really, I love intensity, and whenever I'm singing a song that I really love, I just like want to jump out of my skin, you know, like I heard Flea say that once. I just want to jump out of my skin when I hear the Bad Brains. I'm like, whenever I sing a song that I really love, you know, like it takes me places where I wouldn't normally go on my own. So, you know, and I was always embarrassed to make eye contact with a crowd. So I used to go into my zone and I would just be jumping around like that night at the party in high school.
Okay.
I wasn't looking at them so much. I was just jumping around, feeling the moment, really feeling like I'm finally home in my, you know, in my consciousness.
Jumping out of your skin.
Jumping out of my skin. And then when I did look at the crowd, they're up front having fun. That was like, felt like good payback, you know? So,
yeah. And then you mentioned HR, and I know there's a story in the book here.
Yeah.
That you actually tried out for the Bad
so,
Brains.
Yeah, we played with the Bad Brains at Flashes, and Lucy Brown played on that show too. But Chuck Mosley, the singer of Faith No More, was singing for the Bad Brains at that time, and HR had gone off and done his solo project. So they're in Cleveland. Chuck Mosley's singing for them, and their manager came up to me, Anthony County, came up to me at the show. Spuds just played, and our crowd went crazy for us, and I was just all over the stage, you know, like we all did in that band, you know, we were just going nuts. Anthony County came up to me, the manager of the Bad Brains. He said, wow, he goes, I love your energy, man. He said, the Bad Brains are going to be looking for a singer soon because things aren't working out with Chuck. I guess he had a drug problem and drinking problem, and, you know, it just wasn't working out. And he goes, it's going to be open auditions, but you know, hey, feel free to come out, you know? And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, there's no way this little skinny white guy is going to go and sing for the Rastafarian hardcore band, you know, that plays reggae music also. You know, I was like, but they're like one of my favorite bands of all time. They are my favorite band of all time, you know? So I ended up learning the song Soulcraft, went to the audition, and there's all these guys standing around waiting to go up and audition. It was being held at the Wetlands. It was a club in New York City. And everybody's going up to the stool. It's almost like karaoke, and you just sit at the stool and sing in the mic. And next. And, you know, all these people are trying out, and then it's my turn to go up. I gave him the cassette that I had, you know, for the Soulcraft, and first thing I did when I got on the stage, I kicked the stool off to get this damn thing out of here. And the song came out, I just started jumping around, and the Bad Brains were sitting at a panel to the side to the right,
like American Idol or something.
Like American Idol, watching, and Chuck Treese was playing drums at the time for them. There was Doc, Daryl, Chuck Treese, and I think who else was there? I think it was just those guys. But anyway, I just went up there and I just went crazy, man. I was like going nuts, and I even jumped right up in their face, and I'm just singing right up there, and those guys are like, "Get out of here!" They're like, "This guy's crazy." So that song's 3 minutes and 8 seconds, and I gave everything I had that 3 minutes and 8 seconds. I had pulled back when I needed to sing the singing parts, and I got as intense as I could on the other parts. And I'm singing one of my heroes' songs, you know, so I'm really feeling like I'm getting to be like HR for a song in front of that band, you know. So anyway, I get done, and I couldn't even make eye contact with them. I went down the hall and went over by the bathrooms. I took my backpack and I just sat on the ground exhausted. And the guys left the panel to come over and tell me, hey, great job, man. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That's the intensity we're looking for. Anthony County told me that. And Daryl and I talked, and Doc, and they're like, oh, man, we really appreciate you and stuff. And they said, if we were to have you up in Woodstock, that's where Doc lived, he said, would you be willing to maybe write some, I want to see your writing style and how you sing to some originals. I'm like, oh my God, yeah. So here I am thinking, oh man, I might have a second audition and everything. And I was all excited about it. And then my friends came out to the audition with me. So we went to the Limelight that night, which is an old church from the 1800s. And they have hardcore and punk shows there and metal shows and everything every Sunday night. So I think it was Saturday night or Sunday night, but we were there hanging out and I'm just on cloud nine. I'm like, oh my gosh, it was a great audition. So Roy Mayorga, the drummer from Stone Sour, he's in that band, and he's also in Ministry. He was drumming for the band Nausea at the time, and he was running sound at the Wetlands. He came up to me there. He goes, dude, that was a really sweet audition, man. I love your energy, man. Great job. And I'm like, oh, man, thanks. And then I was like, the Bad Brains said they want to, like, check me out again, like maybe come up there. And I was just all excited sharing that with him. And he got this real morose look, and he's like, dude, he goes, so sorry to tell you this, but like later that day after you left, this soul brother with dreadlocks that looked like HR, sounded like HR, he went up there and like wowed the whole place, man. I'm like, oh, and I knew I didn't get it right there.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what, man, I got to live that dream, like I got to, I went for it,
Yeah. And the way you tell the story in this book too, it's good about like the pride, and then getting sometimes how we need to be brought back down, even. Yeah.
There've been many times in my life where pride has kicked my ass right down where it needed to be,
Yeah.
It says in Eastern philosophy that one must chant the holy name in a humble state of mind, think of oneself lower than the straw on the streets, and be more humble than a blade of grass, and devoid of all sense of false prestige. In such a humble state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord incessantly. So if you look at that, I actually have that tattooed on my, I don't know if you can see that, going around my collarbone. There's this great spiritual master in our lineage, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who said one should wear that mantra around their collar, like be humble, live a life of humility, and don't expect anything in return from people. Don't expect, people to see you in high regard, So I always catch myself at times when I'm getting puffed up, and, God puts me in my place at times anyway,
Yeah.
Because when you pray to God, and you're like, help me to be the man you want me to be, even if it's something I don't want, you better be ready for that prayer to be answered, and you better be prepared for what he has in store for you, because it doesn't always look the way you think, So that's been a good lesson.
Coming back to like, your faith and everything, like how would you say like your spiritual, like once again, it's like a discipline, how would you say you've you exercise your spiritual discipline like daily, and like how did it, how has it gotten better over time?
Well, my program right now is I wake up at 4 a.m. I chant on my beads. I do these morning prayers. It's called Mangal Arati, where I chant 2 prayers. I sing them. Then I chant on my beads, and I chant for like 2 hours straight, and then, I go off to work. So whenever you make your foundation of your day, your spiritual practice, then when you leave the house, you know, the material world can't be in, you know, an imposition on you. You could be the one that, you know, affects the people you come in contact with, because you already laid that foundation. My mind is in such a place to where, you know, I'm situated properly to where I could be a good example and be an influence on somebody. Because, you know, you're on your way to work and you see somebody's beeping their horn at you, flipping you off, you know, and it's like, you could probably get a good idea that they didn't spend their morning meditating and prayer and getting in the right mindset, or they wouldn't have been like that.
Yeah. I know, you know, I'm still, you know, like I said, I'm a slow learner, and I'm trying, you know, to have a better discipline and practice of that as well. Like I've do a lot of recovery meetings. I've been, you know, working with my sponsor and stuff. And there's one guy in one of my meetings that always, his routine is BPM, makes his bed, he prays, and he meditates, you know, before he gets out in the day. And I also heard a guy share a lead one time that I've always remembered too, is like, if I don't hit my knees in the morning when I start my day and leave the house, it's like leaving the house without brushing my teeth. You know, it's just like, just nastiness is coming out my mouth that day.
Oh, right.
You know,
right. That's a good
analogy.
analogy.
You know, I bad breath or just nasty stuff is coming out if I don't, you know, so it's like, you know, I gotta hit my knees and give it to God every day. And I don't always get that right, but I'm trying to take what I learned from people along the way, you know, to, and I do see that difference. Like you said, like you can handle things.
Yeah.
And, you know, that life throws at you, because life is life, man. And it seems like, especially lately, man, a lot of the kettle's been turned up in the world. A lot of people seem like they're on even more of an edge. You know, it's like shaking that 2 liter of pop and you're waiting for it to blow up sometimes. And I can't control what other people are doing, but I can work on myself and how I react, you know, to other people. And, you know, that's why I love having conversations like this and stuff.
Well, you got to be easy on yourself though, too. You're like, I'm a slow learner and I'm not there. It's like life is, it's a long road, and we're meant to learn along the way.
Yeah.
So like they say, don't try to eat a whole watermelon in one bite, but, you know, but consistently nibble at it, you know?
Or like I've heard, how do you eat an elephant? You know, one bite at a time. I know it's an animal, sorry. But
all right.
But you know, that's what people have said in the room too. It's like one bite, it's because it's big. You know, but yeah, we'll stick with watermelon.
But you know, one more thing though, like you were talking about the guy saying he makes his bed. First thing I do before I even take a piss or leave my room, I make the bed. First thing, man, because when you put your life in order, my house is always really clean. You know, it's like, make the bed, make sure everything's clean. There's no dishes in the sink. You know, if you put your life in order and you keep it simple, that's one thing that's really helped me simplify your life. I work off a schedule. So I know if I'm writing a book or writing an album, I have a writing session in my calendar for that day, you know, in my schedule. If you keep a schedule, you can do anything, man. You know, within reason, you know, if you want to be president or something, you know.
Yeah. I don't know who wants that job.
Yeah, right. Who wants that?
But yeah, man, I have like a dry erase board up there in my week. I always try and like, I mean, there's one, you know, over there for my interviews down here, right. You know, and so I try, you know, but and like you said, yeah, I need to be easier on myself too, because I know the power of words. Yeah. Too. I've learned the power of words, and I need to speak life into myself and speak grace and forgiveness. Yeah. You know, as well. And that's something that I've been learning on this journey with age, man. Right. But God keeps giving me more chances. You know, and I'm grateful for that as well. You know?
Yeah. And when you start to get complacent in life, God will put more roadblocks and, you know, alter trails for you to take, because if we're not challenging ourselves, we're not making any progress. Complacency is like the worst. I've gone through some really, really heavy stuff over the past year, you know, it's like, but you just got to keep on keeping on, and you got to see what did I learn during that time, and and just keep making progress and put it all on God. Hey, let me surrender that over to you. Let me know how I can handle this the best way possible.
Yeah. Like they say in my program, progress, not perfection.
Oh yeah.
Just as long as, if I can be a little bit better today than I was yesterday,
yeah,
I'm making progress. I know, I my thing is, and like you said, it's like battling that mind and trying to beat that mind. But there'll be times where I'll get like, for the longest time, like I had a lot of shame and guilt I held on to for the day. Some of the things I did when I was in the dollar bill days, when I was, just really thinking about self, the people I hurt close to me, and I finally gotten to the place where it's just like, hey, that guy's dead. That guy's been dead. That's why we joked about, you wrote Boondoggle Bailey now in my book.
Dollar Bill's dead.
Like, I'm not, that guy anymore. And I'm proud of who I am, but then I'll get caught up in like, man, but I want to be here. I'll get caught in future, Yeah.
Well, one thing I should tell you about that though, if you want to be there, write down how to do it. And then you make your schedule every day. There's a story in here you'll see when my wife and I bought this house years ago, and I was going to flip it, Once we moved in, all kinds of stuff was going wrong. And I just felt like the weight of the world. I'm like, oh my gosh, so stressful. It seemed like a money pit and everything. And then one day I just said, I'm going to write down every day, make a schedule, how I'm going to tackle this one day at a time, just like alcohol, AA.
Yeah.
It's just one day at a time. I'm going to chip away at this. So I renovated the kitchen, got that done. There was a leak in the basement, got that taken care of, fixed stuff in the attic and the roof, all kinds of stuff. And then by the time the list was done, I had improved the value of that house so much that we actually made a profit on it, and everything worked out fine. But what I took away from it was the learning experience.
Yeah. Because
I had flipped houses before, but I had never been put in the face of adversity like that and had to like climb out by myself, but I surrendered it over to God. I say, hey, just give me the strength to not flip out over this. Let me just do this, one day at a time. And that's where it's at. So if you have anything you want to do, man, write it down and then make a plan and then make a schedule and then do not jump off that plan,
I know like one thing that, and I had somebody on that's like, kind of talks about similar things and like how clutter can hold us up from, receiving, from maybe manifesting or getting the next thing. We got to get rid of stuff before God's willing to give us the next thing. And as you've seen, even coming over here right now, I have an issue with that. And every time I try to, it's like weird. Sometimes it's like I have these attachments to things that I no longer use and no longer serve me. And it's like hard to get rid of. But like people have always said, like, well, just make a little plan, like you did with that house. Okay, today I'm going to work on this area of the house, and maybe I just work on it for like, a half hour to an hour or whatever, and whatever, just a little bit. And that's something I need to put on the calendar, because I eventually, I got a lot of things that I'm working towards and I want to end up getting out of here. So it's going to be a lot easier move if I realize I downsize.
Yeah. And
realize that a lot of these things no longer serve me. Like my daughter had sold I have a Wii and a PS3 or whatever that had been sitting there. I no longer play games. I haven't played games in years. And she's sold them to somebody for me. And she's like, "Are you ready to get rid of this?" I'm like, "I don't know. I might want to play it again sometime." Like, "No, I don't. Let's get rid of it." So, yeah.
You know what they say, you'll never see a U-Haul behind a hearse. So it's like, get rid of it now. And I mean, simplify your life. Life gets so easy to live and easy to manage whenever you just simplify everything.
Yeah.
Keep a basic schedule, eat simple, live simple. Don't be afraid to say no when somebody's like, "Hey, you want to go to do this?" Or "You want to go," if it doesn't suit you, man, don't be afraid to say no, live your life. There's ways to show love to people without having to say yes to everything they do.
Yeah.
You gotta love yourself too, But
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Don, I know there's so much more we could talk about with your music and everything else, but I don't know. I feel like that's kind of a good place to start wrapping it up at. What do you think?
Yeah, cool. Just for the record,
people, though,
he's on a chair like 6 inches higher than me. He's not. You look like the jolly white giant over there. I'm just this little guy.
I'm sorry. I should have. There's a little pump on the side. I should have probably put that up like the barber.
No, I mean, it's cool. You look like a wrestler. Yeah.
But before we wrap up, I want to ask you a couple questions that I normally ask people that I have on. What class do you feel should be mandatory before graduating high school today?
What class?
Yeah.
I think people need to learn how to balance the checkbook. They need to learn how to pay bills and survive in life, because when you get spit out in the real world, whenever you're 18 or whenever you leave the house, you run into so much stuff that is not taught in school. Yeah. I don't really need to learn about. I mean, it's good to know history, but and English and stuff. But there's certain stuff that's like a requirement in high school that is just, not. You should really prepare people for life.
Yeah.
I think learning how to when you do get out in the real world and make your money, learn how to invest it properly and to build a retirement so that you're not left, holding your dick at the end of the day. It's like you have to prepare for when the body doesn't function as well as it used to.
Yeah. And that's one of the number one answers I get to everybody I ask, finance and taxes. Teach me how to balance a checkbook and taxes, or teach the kids, they should definitely learn that.
Yeah. But I think, also, I mean, it's not to be like the holy roller about it and everything, but people need to know that I think religion should be in schools. It used to be when I was a kid, but now it's like they're so afraid to pray in school. They're afraid to do so much because they're afraid to insult somebody or offend
a vocal
them.
Minority,
Yeah,
very
man.
vocal minority.
Right. So I don't know. They teach the essentials in life,
Yeah.
Like home ec was a really good idea.
Yeah. I mean, I took shop class. I sucked at it, but it was still cool to have that and learn. I mean, my table wobbled and stuff like that when I was done my final project, but still, it's
But basic mathematics, I understand that's definitely essential. But trigonometry, really, man.
Yeah.
Algebra.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I mean, there's some time and a place. I mean, that should be for the person that wants to go into accounting or whatever.
Yeah, if they're going into college, that should be one of the prereqs for that. Or whatever. If you're gonna, but at high school level, no.
Right.
Prepare them to be able to make those decisions going on of whatever they want to pursue.
Yeah.
And then, who are 3 people who've inspired you and you can credit for making you who you are today?
His Divine Grace AC, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. I know, say that one time fast, huh? That's my spiritual master. He's, those are the books that John Joseph handed to me. And I was like, wow, what's this? And then to this day, it's like I read his books every day. He opened my darkened eyes with the torchlight of knowledge, man. When I read his books, it's like, I don't care how down I could be about something. It just puts things into perspective and definitely him. And then John Joseph changed my life in so many ways. I owe him so much. And then, like my son, Jayananda, he my wife and I adopted him when he was 10 days old. And I never would have learned so much about life unless I was a parent. So, I learned a lot from him. If you have kids, kids. And it's you never learn about selflessness, unless you have kids, to the degree of, you're burping them and feeding them in the middle of the nights, and they got shitty diapers, and, and they're barfing in the middle of the night, or they have their heart broken, and you these dad moments that you learn how to love somebody and be compassionate towards them, and the way they act. One day I was at a festival with my son, and this elderly lady came up to him, and he was cracking into a granola bar. He's about to eat it. And the lady goes, "Excuse me, son, where did you get that? I'm famished." And he was just a little kid at the time.
Yeah.
He looks at me, he goes, "Dad, what's famished mean?" I said, "She's hungry." I didn't even have to coach him. He just turned to her and gave it to her. And I was like, man, that melted my heart. I learned, he never did that shit for me, but whatever. But, it's like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like learning from a kid, and even one time playing the game Categories. You ever play that before?
I think so.
Just little stuff like that he would say that would just kind of blow my mind. Like, wow, it's a different way to look at it. It's the game Categories. You roll the dice, and whatever letter comes up, you have a list of things to name. So a state that begins with M, I'm thinking Missouri, Massachusetts, Maine. He's like, state of mind. I'm like, what? Hearing how somebody else's brain thinks, and they're just a kid, and I just had so many times where I just appreciated him too. So those are my three.
For me, God needed to give me daughters so I could respect and treat women better.
Oh yeah.
Too,
For real.
For real, man. I mean, I was, the typical sailor, growing up. Just like, what can I get? What can you, and I still sometimes I still struggle with that guy coming up, but it's like God gave me two daughters. This is like, this is somebody else's daughter. How are you going to treat? Do you want who? And I want to be the type of man that, when my daughters settle down, it's like, I want to be that example, it makes me,
that's awesome.
I don't always get it right, but I'm grateful that I'm learning and trying.
Well, that's the thing, neither one of us had a handbook when we had our kids, and it's like, as you go, you're learning on the run. Like when we adopted our kid, we came home in a car seat with him in it, and we dropped him in the living room, and we were looking at him, we're like, now what do we do? I don't know, should we give him milk or something? We didn't know anything, dude.
Poke him with a stick.
So we're just sitting there looking at him, we're like, but we figured it out. We went, we had a nurse neighbor, and she came over and told us why he was crying. He's colicking. Like, what the hell's that? Or he's hungry or whatever. It's like, you learn as you go, and hopefully. And then I learned how hard it was to be a parent, that when I got older, I forgave my parents for doing stuff that I didn't agree with growing up. And then I appreciated getting spanked or whatever whenever I did something wrong, because it taught me not to do it,
Yeah. Like I look back, my dad was a World War II Marine, and sometimes I had a lot of resentments growing up because I felt like I didn't why am I getting my ass kicked for doing this or whatever, or just the discipline and stuff like that. And then but he was in the invasion of Okinawa. I didn't understand PTSD because they didn't have it back there. They didn't call it that back then. But I focused on the negative moments instead of all the times he was trying to teach me, the good, the positive moments. And then it was finally when I got a couple of years sober and I started working on, and then I had my deployment and picked up some of my own, trauma or whatever. But then I was able to forgive and have empathy for my dad. And I was able to have the best relationship with him before he passed on. Like I got the blessing from him,
Right.
telling me how proud he was of the changes I made, you know.
Well, that's awesome.
I remember my but Bianca, my firstborn, my oldest, you know, I was living with Frank Novinek at the time when we had her. He was like
$1 bill.
Yeah. And Frank, you know, hanging out with Frank or living with Frank was like it was wild times. And he was probably the first person outside of my family that got to hold her when we brought her home. But then we also knew it was like, oh, I guess we're done living together. Time to, you know, it's time for me to go on, you know.
But like you were saying about the you know, you didn't understand until later in life what your father was setting you up for. It's not that he didn't love you, he was preparing, he was really giving you love by preparing you to be a good father on your own. Exactly. So I had this friend who recently got divorced. He had his stepson living in the house with him, and the kid was like 23 years old or something like that. And the kid's mother never really taught him work ethic and any, you know, like he just had no discipline whatsoever. The kid would sit around pissing Gatorade bottles and leave them in the room, and he was kind of like a hoarder, leave dishes everywhere and food all over. And my friend had to go in this room and clean up after him all the time and stuff. And it's like, what if that kid had discipline right from the start, you know? But you know, a swift kick in the ass once in a while did me right. You know?
I mean, a lot of people like talk down on that today, like, oh no, we're gonna call CPS or whatever. You know, but it's like, dude, no, man. It's just like it is love. Like you said, it is love, the guardrail. Sometimes God punishes us in certain ways when we're making bad decisions, but because he loves us and wants us to get on the right, you know, track, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, that's it. It's correction. So if somebody puts a kid in the corner and he has to stand there for an hour and he misses recess or whatever, you're not going there for eternity. You go there, you learn your lesson, you come out, and you know, you're probably not going to make that same mistake again unless you really love, you know, isolation over there. You know?
Exactly.
So when we go through rehabilitation, it's for that reason. It's to change our way. That's why, you know, if you believe in karma, you do something bad, you better believe it's coming back to bite you back in the ass, you know?
Yeah. And you talked about some insane things that you learned in this for sure.
Oh yeah.
So definitely recommend people picking it up. And then favorite toy as a child?
Rock'em Sock'em Robots was pretty good. And I also had the Evel Knievel wind up thing. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I remember that's the one you said when we originally did this.
Yeah.
You know?
And then
so
my Aunt
had to
Pat
bring that up.
My Aunt Pat bought me a little metal basketball rim. It was a real sturdy one. And my dad even put it in the frame of the doorway and like screwed it in. Like it was a good sturdy hoop.
Nice.
And I had a basketball hoop in my bedroom. It was pretty cool. And all my friends would want to come over and spend the night. So that was a pretty cool gift. But yeah, those are my top three. But Rock'em Sock'em Robots, and then, you know, the other.
It's for the boxing stuff, right?
Yeah. Big fan.
And then any message you have for our military members that are currently serving overseas?
Yeah, no matter what criticism you'll get from people that don't appreciate where this freedom comes that we actually have, it's just ignorance. You know, we have to protect ourselves. It's like, I believe that the whole world should be open for all of us to walk around, but there's a process by which you have to do it. You know, you can't just let people into the country from third world countries that are like coming here to create havoc. You know, it's like, you know, the military is there for a purpose. It's to protect. And, you know, I don't know, man, I'm not political at all, but you know, it's like, I always hear people in the military getting, you know, bad rap, It's like, and a lot of the time people are just going in the military because they want to get on the GI Bill, or they want to, you know,
have a better opportunity to
right.
at life, you know?
Or maybe get some training so that they come out.
It's always, you know, and like they say, you know, a lot of times it's people that come from poor communities. They're just trying to, you know,
they're just going somewhere to
better
live.
themselves. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, God bless the military, you know, it's like, but I'm a firm believer too, you know, like being on tour over in Europe, a lot of those kids over in Europe, it's mandatory that they go through military training when they're young. They have to, you know?
Yeah.
They have to go through like a boot camp and stuff. So it's like, they're so well mannered over there for the most part. I mean,
yeah,
it's amazing, you know, and they don't have issues sleeping, you know, the whole day away like we have in America.
Mm-hmm.
America needs discipline. That's bottom line.
I mean, I think whether we want it, people want it or not, it's coming, unfortunately.
Well, we've made it so easy to be lazy.
What is that one saying, like, hard times you create strong men, you know?
Yeah.
Then strong men create easy times, and then easy times become weak men or whatever.
And the same thing with hurt people. And it's the same thing. It's a chain reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Don, man, always a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, dude, it was great.
Love hanging out with you.
Nice to come here in the Boondoggle bunker.
Boondoggle bunker live.
Yeah.
You know, I had actually Sicky over from Black Death.
Sicky Spacek.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
He was one of the first. I think,
really?
Live at the Boondoggle bunker. It was
this
cool.
is pretty cool, man. But for the record, he's not that tall. Look how big you look.
Chair. I know.
He's on a big roller coaster.
My son Don.
Yeah. Yeah. Stay in school, kids.
But so yeah, for anybody out there that might be like new or curious and want to check out your books or pick them up, where do you send them first?
So you go to fooseforlife.com. My last name, Foose. Fooseforlife.com. And you can get Raw Life and then Motivate Me. And I'm working on a couple other books. Actually, really quick. I don't want to tell what the one book's about. It's going to be like a coffee table book, but it's funny. It's actually a funny book.
Yeah.
It's just, but
and then your music and stuff. People want to check out.
Yeah. One Life All In, man. Check out our videos. We have a bunch of videos on YouTube, and it was just like a project. We didn't really put a ton of time into touring and stuff, but, it's some of my favorite stuff I've ever done. One Life All In, and the Lifeline album is called Civil Disobedience. That was a real fun record if you like up tempo, almost pop punk, but it's fun. Yeah. And then thanks for having me on the show, Bill.
Yeah, brother.
Appreciate it, man.
Always a pleasure, man. And then before I let you go, I need one last favor.
Yeah, what's that?
Cutting a promo ID for the show. Just
let's do it.
And you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
So you want me to just say it into there?
Yeah.
This is Don Foose from One Life All In, and you're watching today's Boondoggle with Boondoggle Bailey.
Awesome, brother, man. Thanks again, man.
Thank you, brother. Peace out.
All right! Listen up! Hold on to your seats. Grab your girls, grab your beers.
Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Anthrax, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, so one Heath, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle on Domain